am here to persuade you on why relationships require conflict. Conflict is a scary word if you're anything like me. I hate any sort of confrontation. However, I've come to realize that if you put on your big kid face, you can realize the benefits that come from a mature and civil conflict. The main thing I would like you to gather from this speech today is that conflict can be a healthy aspect of a relationship, and it doesn't have to be strictly exclusive to intimate relationships. It can include platonic ones as well. I'm sure despite what any of you may say, you have had a conflict, a confrontation, or whatever you'd like to call it, with a friend, a boyfriend, or a relative, and you're sitting there thinking, wow, this is really pointless, I'm getting nothing from this. Well, I'm here to say that if you have a conflict in a mature and civil way, the results are very positive. Ironically, I chose this topic because I was in a relationship and I was going to try to explain why conflict was purposeful from a positive perspective. Well, that has recently ended poorly, and now I'm explaining it from a different perspective. However, I can objectively say that I still believe that conflict is an important aspect in relationships. Today we will look at how conflict can signal a need for change, can expand your perspective, and can signal a way for you to practice assertive communication in your arguments. Let's first look at how conflict can signal a need for change. Conflict is important because it can signal a need for change for either or both parties. When conflict occurs, something has instigated, therefore something needs to be resolved. According to Fulwiler, 69% of relationship conflict is about peripheral problems. Peripheral problems are problems that are circulating around the main point of what you're actually getting at. Just like your eyesight, peripheral problems are all around the center of what the actual problem is. Conflict should be purposeful and allow for resolve or instigate a change. Without that, there's really no point in even having conflict because you're getting nothing from it. The sad reality is that it occurs most commonly with our closest friends. Dr. Hall states, "It is unfortunate that the person we care for and love the most is often the primary recipient of our negative emotions." Conflict can provide a chance to work on your problems without necessarily ending it bad, as long as you conduct yourself well throughout the argument. Now that you understand how conflict can instigate change, let's look at how conflict can expand your perspective. Conflict in relationships can lead to an expansion of your own or their perspective. Conflict can expand your perspective on the boundaries necessary for the relationship that it's occurring in. According to Tarnowski, have some boundaries about what is respectable behavior and what isn't. Whether that be no cursing, no physical interactions, no yelling, just like a soccer field, as soon as the people step out of bounds, the play stops. Which is why I chose this, because just like in a soccer field, as it is in conflict, if one person steps out of bounds, then the conversation needs to stop because it's then going to be pointless. Seeing someone's perspective makes them feel understood and secure, and if you do this within the conflict you're having, it can make the other person feel as if they're getting their point across as well. To have positive results, the best approach is when each side is calm and ready to have a discussion, not a heated argument, and to go into the conflict with an open mind. To do this, you need to be in an emotionally safe environment, as well as taking breaks if it looks like the conversation is going south, more towards an argument. Now that you understand why conflict is important for change and can expand your perspective, let's look at how it can help practice assertive communication. Conflict can be a great outlet to practice assertive communication. Conflict is pointless if one person just beats around the bush rather than saying how they really feel, because nothing is going to get accomplished. With this, it reflects the need for some type of communication that can allow for you to speak your mind, as well as being respectful about it so the conversation has purpose. This is why I have the point assertion versus aggression. Assertion is when you're being direct and straightforward with what you want, rather than just being aggressive about it, demanding what you want. I also found that I feel statements can be beneficial in conversation of this sort, because you're trying to say that you feel some type of way about something rather than demanding the results. Being quiet or repressing anger will only lead to explosive conflict down the line. I have a tendency to build things up and it never ends up working out down the line, and I have come to find find out that if you just say how you feel in that moment, the conversation you're going to have is going to be just about that rather than 50 other things that you were mad about that you kept inside. According to Scott, as you probably know, saying the wrong thing can be like throwing fuel on a fire and making the conflict worse. It is important to say what's on your mind, but to be clear and assertive without being aggressive or putting the other on the defensive. Another thing I found with assertive communication is to be direct about what you want. As you can see right here, assertive conflict is between aggressive and passive. It's really like passive communication is when you're focusing on their needs rather than your needs, but aggressive communication is your needs over their needs. Assertive communication is somewhere in the middle, which is a really healthy part of the conflict in relationships. So, in conclusion, conflict is necessary for a healthy relationship because it can signal a need for change, it can expand your perspective, as well as help you practice assertive communication. I will leave you all with this. Imagine a relationship with no conflict or expression of your likes or dislikes. Without this, there is no stability or there is no platform for change. Conflict is at the core of every relationship because without this, there would be no relationships or interdependence or anything of that sort. It would just revolve around you and your own needs and your own individual desires. Any questions?